Good evening. Welcome to Living United. Live United, making a difference in people's lives here in the Monadnock region. My name's Nikki Sauber. I'm filling in for our usual host, Kelly Steiner, tonight. And here we have Allison Riley from the Monadnock RSVP Volunteer Center. Welcome, Allison. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Nikki. I'm happy to be here.
Great. So the Monadnock RSVP Volunteer Center, what is it? What's it all about?
Well, the Monadnock RSVP Volunteer Center has been situated under Monadnock Family Services, which many people know about, has been in the community since 1974. So we've been here for quite some time. And we are a center that covers volunteering in a large part of the region. We cover the Cheshire County area, but also the western part of Hillsborough County. And basically, our volunteer center attracts and appeals to adults 55 years and older to come in and find volunteer opportunities that meet their skills and interests. And we run a couple of our own programs, which I'll tell you about, but we're also connected with a number of different partner agencies around the area. And so volunteers come in and they get connected with those agencies, and they help through volunteering for those programs. So our Keene location is located right on Main Street in Keene at 64 Main Street. We have an office there, and then we also have an office in the Jaffrey area as well, and kind of serve the larger Peterborough community out that way. We have a director in our office and 2 staff. I'm a program coordinator, and I have a colleague, Joel Green, who is also a program coordinator. And we are led by Kathy Baird, who is our director. And Kathy has been with the organization for about 13 years now, director since 2013. So she knows the organization well. Joel and I are newer, but that's our center. And I should say that we are part of a larger group, which I can talk a little bit about. The Corporation for National and Community Service is the independent federal organization that funds us. And we are what's called a Senior Corps program. So they provide the grant money for us to operate, and we are also matched by our Monadnock United Way in the area. So we are grateful for the funds that we get from both organizations. And so we are funded there, and then, as I said, it's a Senior Corps operation, but we're called RSVP. We get a lot of questions about, well, what does RSVP mean? And really, the logo is not used as much anymore. It originally stood for Retired Senior Volunteer Program, but they've shrunk it down, sort of like what AARP has done over time, because what we're finding is a lot of adults that come in and want to volunteer with us don't consider themselves to be seniors and really don't love the language. So we kind of in our office, we say that it's really an invitation to volunteer. That's where we go with the RSVP piece. We are, as I said, we're focused on adults 55 and above. But that's where that RSVP piece comes from. But we are a Senior Corps program, so people also might know Vista and AmeriCorps. Those programs are also funded by the Corporation for National and Community Service. We're another group under that umbrella.
Great, and it's so nice that your program specifically engages this population that is often, put I don't want to say forgotten about, but retired folks are sometimes receive less attention or all of that, and it's great to engage them in such meaningful ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'd like to hear more about the programs that you run through RSVP.
Well, we have 2 signature programs, as we call them, that we run. One is the program that I run that I know we're going to talk more about, which is the America Reads program. And my colleague Joel Green, who I mentioned, runs the Neighbors Indeed program. And I'll mention that quickly, that the Neighbors Indeed program is an independent living program. We match volunteers who are willing to provide companionship and support to older adults that live in their own home, and the idea is to try to help people to live independently as long as possible. And so we are the only program in the area that is fee-free. We match volunteers, as I say, and volunteers are at least matched for a year, but many of our volunteers have been matched with their folks for quite some time. And they'll do things like grocery shopping, transportation to medical appointments, some light chore work, not anything that are services you would pay for, but just general helpfulness. But as I say, most of it is around companionship. So that's one of our programs. America Reads is the other signature program, which I'll get into. And then a lot of the reason why people come in is to get connected with our partner organizations. And just to mention a few of those folks, we are matched with, on this side of the region, the Keene Community Kitchen. On the Peterborough side, we work with the Peterborough Food Pantry. We work with groups like the American Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity locally. The Keene Community Education Center, Keene Senior Center, and there are many. So I won't try to, I will just apologize and say I can't list them all, but there are many opportunities that we have. And when somebody comes in, again, we sort of look at their interests and skills and appropriately match them. So, and then the America Reads program is the other program that is the big one that I oversee and that we run. And would you like to hear a little bit about that now?
I would love to.
Okay.
And just to speak to the other programs,
Sure.
I mean, it's so heartwarming to hear about an organization essentially founded on neighbors helping neighbors.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's one of the things that makes this region so special. And
It does.
it really helps to bring our populations together and to prevent some isolation and really build community and make this area stronger and more full of vitality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're always looking for folks to do those specific volunteer positions. And we also are looking for people that are in need. So, this is another good way, our chatting here today is another good way to get the word out about that we are always looking for folks who feel like they could use that extra support, are in a low-income situation. They may have relatives and friends that live farther away, and they really just need somebody to be able to pop in and check on them once or twice a week. And so we welcome those calls.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great. So you had mentioned wanting to speak to the America Reads
Yes.
program, which is what you're most directly involved with.
I am. I oversee the America Reads program, which is a program that we are in our 18th year.
Wow.
I have just taken over the program in August of last year. I follow Suzette Borden, who many people know in the community. Suzette has been here for quite some time, and she started the program 18 years ago. And put a lot of heart and soul into growing the program. And I was fortunate enough to take over the baton from her, and we are currently in 15 schools in the larger region and 4 early learning programs. We have 3 Head Start programs, and we are also most recently in the Keene Daycare Center, as well as these 15 schools. And what the America Reads program does is we work with children that are pre-K through 3rd grade. That's where the program ends. And our volunteers go in to give literacy support and to promote literacy with children. And so what happens is once we're connected with a school or a Head Start, we talk with them about what their needs, volunteer needs are. And we have some schools where we have many volunteers. We have as many as 8 or 9 people that are working in a school. And we have others that are small, that are maybe 2 or 3 volunteers that are in a school because it's a smaller school. And they let us know. Again, we try to see what openings we're going to have each school year, and we match volunteers accordingly. And I'm happy to say that we have over 70 volunteers in the program right now, but we're always growing. And so, for instance, going into this fall, we're going to open in 2 new locations. So I am actively recruiting for the Troy School right now, and also Stoddard. We're hoping to have 2 or 3 new volunteers in each of those locations, in addition to whatever flow we have at all the other locations where we are right now. Volunteers, when they show an interest, they come in, they meet with me for about a half an hour. We try to keep it very low key. It's really for me to have an opportunity to get to know them, find out who, what their life has been like, who they are. It gives them a chance to ask questions. For some people, they really want to work in their neighborhood school. And this is where some of what you were saying earlier, that people want to feel like they can walk right down the street and give back to their the real local group. Other volunteers, I'm pleased to say, are really willing to come and say, I will go wherever the need is. So we do have schools in outlying areas that may not have as many volunteers, and if you're somebody who is willing to drive, get in the car for 20 minutes, 25 minutes and go, we will place you there, and it's much appreciated when we can find people who are willing to do that. It's attractive to folks because it's about an hour a week of commitment. And so, the active volunteers that we're recruiting are busy with grandchildren and sometimes part-time jobs and other volunteering. So this is something that they can do once a week for an hour, meet with a couple of children, and the reports always are that they really get a lot out of it. It's a commitment, except for Keen Daycare, which runs all year long. It's a commitment from October to May, and so you get a lot for what you put in. And I think that's why we have volunteers that come back from year to year. So.
Yeah, it sounds like even just 1 hour a week can be really impactful for both the volunteers and the students.
Can make a lot of difference. We see, and we hear at the end of the year, this is the time of year when I'm surveying teachers and volunteers to see how did it go, and teachers have reports about the impacts that have been made. They will do testing at the beginning and the end of the year. We often see, we can chart an uptick in reading level, and students feeling much more comfortable with reading. So it's really, we're seeing results, which is really important to be able to see the impact that's being made. And that helps us too when we go out to recruit for new schools to say, this is the work that was done, and this is how students were changed. So.
Absolutely, and more studies are showing that working on early literacy efforts and those sorts of early childhood interventions are very powerful in ensuring a child's success in the future. So I think your program is so important for these early readers and for the volunteers, of course.
It is, and as you're saying about the research, there's a lot of research, and why the program is keyed in this sort of pre-K to third grade is that they really are finding that if a student is not where they need to be grade level reading wise by third grade, that it does result in trouble down the road. It really does. There are higher levels of kids that don't graduate from high school or are incarcerated because of issues. Lots of further issues. And so the more energy we can put into this early group, I think as a community, we will see positive things for the larger community down the road when these children are more successful in their day-to-day lives. So,
sure. Yeah. And just as beneficial as this program is for the young people, in addition, there are tons of studies out there talking about the benefits of volunteering, particularly for older generations. Yes. It improves their, social well-being, their mental health, their physical health. Just getting out there and being part of a connected community is good for everybody.
That's exactly
I think it's a win-win what you're doing here.
It is, Nikki. And when we get surveys back from volunteers, many times they very humbly will say, I'm not sure that I impacted them as much as they impacted me.
Aww.
They come away from it really feeling that way. So that's a really nice thing.
Sure.
Gives people a purpose.
Yeah, and do you have any particular stories to share, maybe to speak to that powerful impact or that connection between the volunteer and the reader?
Yeah, we opened in a couple of new places stories this year, and one story that I think I'll share is from a volunteer, Barbara, who was at the Emerson School in Fitzwilliam this year. We had 3 new volunteers placed there. We've had a very successful year there. They really enjoyed the America Reads program. They're having us come back. And Barbara worked with a classroom that she loved and got a lot out of. And the story that she shared with us that was really great, and the way that volunteers sort of connect what's happening for kids, is that there was a power outage that happened at the school over the course of the winter. And a power outage can be really alarming to young children, especially if you're not home with your mom and dad or guardians and you're in an unfamiliar place. And so Barbara used it as an opportunity because she was there reading that day, she used it as an opportunity to go check out a book that she knew talked about power outages, and it was an appropriate, reading level for the kids she was working with. And she brought it back and used that as a learning tool. And so she was doing her reading around a very relevant topic that took place, and they had all experienced it. So it was this really nice exchange, and I think, again, the fact that she went and took that information and did something creative with it was really nice. And for the students, they were impacted because they got the reading part out of it, but they also were able to talk through this experience that happened to them. So I think volunteering in the America Reads program really goes beyond the day-to-day reading skill piece. There's a big mentoring piece that's part of it, and connection. Just as another quick thing, I've had several volunteers say to me, I'll see my student in the grocery store, and he or she comes running across and says, Mrs. So-and-so, Mr. So-and-so, aren't you my reading buddy? And so there are these really nice out-of-school connections that happen, and that's a really wonderful thing to be happening in the community. It brings us all together.
Sure. Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you're actively recruiting volunteers.
Yes.
And so I'd love for you to share with our audience a little bit more about how somebody might be able to get involved, or
absolutely.
Yeah, what's the pathway to get involved in the America
Right.
Reads or the other programs that RSVP offers?
Well, I'll start by talking about America Reads. So I am recruiting right now. As I said, I'm specifically looking for people in the Troy and Stoddard areas, but there are spots all across the region. They simply can call our office or connect with our webpage, either way. I do something to try to service volunteers that are across the region, so people can come in and have an interview with me in the office in Keene, but I also choose a couple of dates when I'm in Peterborough at the Monadnock Family Services location there. So I schedule interviews there, and so folks that are over there and it's easier for them to get to the Peterborough office, they can come there. But I do interviews between now and early September. I am looking for volunteers from all walks of life. I think a lot of people think, well, I have to have some sort of school experience. I do get a lot of retired teachers, but I also get a whole variety of other people. And so really all that I want is somebody who is interested in working with children and who has a love for literacy and reading. That's really all you need. And beyond that, you bring yourself to the position, and we do an interview. We do some low-level administrative work. And what I mean by that is there's a registration form to fill out. I will ask people for a couple of references. They can be personal or professional references. And that's a simple form that reference people will fill out for them. We do criminal background check. So the summer allows me some time to run all of that. And then the other big requirement is training. We have been fortunate enough, when Suzette was in the position, she connected with one of our volunteers who's a retired teacher, and that retired teacher does a few trainings in the fall. That is a requirement for anybody that's coming into the program. We are running those trainings at the end of September this year, late September. So for the second half of the month, people can tap into either the Keene location or Peterborough location for training. We're going to run our training out that way at the Monadnock Community Hospital. And so anytime between now and the training, people can stop by and see me. You can either do a walk-in or you can call, as I say, and schedule an appointment. But we try to keep it as easy as possible, you know. And then folks are placed in early October in their schools. And after that, it's that week-to-week, 1-hour commitment, approximately. Some people will do more, but if you can commit to an hour a week, that's really all we're asking for. To speak to other RSVP volunteer opportunities, again, we take walk-ins and calls anytime. Depending on where you're located, you might meet with me or with Joel, and we will talk with you about your interests. We'll have you complete a skill sheet, and then we start to think together about what would an appropriate placement be. Where would you like to be? It's up to you. It's up to the amount of time you want to give. For some folks, they don't want to do something every single week, and we do have opportunities that are what we call episodic. So if you would like to do something for, let's say, the community kitchen, and it's something that you would like to help with the pantry a few times a month, there are opportunities like that as well. One-time kinds of things occasionally too. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you have opportunities for everybody who has a little bit of time to a lot of time.
That's it,
and
yes.
a wide variety of interests. So
Yeah.
that's great. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share about the Monadnock RSVP Volunteer Center?
Well, I think the thing that we're trying to do right now is really get the word out about our organization. We have a sign on Main Street in Keene, and we often get people that are just walking down the sidewalk that'll pop in and ask questions about us. We welcome anybody stopping in anytime. And even if we are not going to be able to connect you with one of our partner groups, I think we have a lot of resource information to share about what's happening in the larger community. We're very community-minded, so it goes beyond our 2 signature programs in terms of how we want to try to be supportive and connect people. And I think just like the United Ways, the wording that you folks use, you know, we really are sort of all in this together and trying to raise the community up, and there are all sorts of the ways that we can do that, whether it's helping a child, helping an older adult, helping folks in the community with disabilities. We have all sorts of nooks and crannies where folks need assistance. And as you say, I think there's a lot of energy in the community and people that are wanting to volunteer their time but don't really know where can I go and do that, you know? So we're a good resource for that. And I just hope that whether they come in, stop in, or give us a call, that people will seek us out. We do have a new Facebook page that we started in January as well. We're trying to get more activity on that page. But people can search Monadnock RSVP Volunteer Center and get connected with our page and share that. We're connected with our partner organizations on there as well. And also through our webpage, you can find out what our latest volunteer opportunities are. So we try to keep that up to date as well. So you can see, is there something there that is an immediate need in the community? And so we hope people will look for those things as well. But any questions, we're happy to answer what we can anytime. So
Great. Well, it sounds like there are lots of ways to get involved. And so audience, if you are one of those people who's looking to get involved, if you're one of those people that might have a little bit of time in your hands and want to make a new friend, connect with a neighbor, I'd encourage you to get in touch with the Monadnock RSVP Volunteer Center. You can also, certainly reach out to Allison, or you can reach out to the Monadnock United Way office, and I'd be happy to connect you to them. So as we sign off tonight, I want to remind everybody to give, to advocate, to volunteer, to live united. Thanks a lot.